in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. After my parents passed away one after another, I clutched my meager savings of silver, traveled a long, weary distance, and sought out Aunt Sharon Zheng for shelter. My mother once told me that Aunt Sharon had been famous since childhood as the Lioness of the East. A woman with a temperament so fierce that everyone who heard her name would tremble with caution. But Mother also promised that as long as I could find my way to her door, Aunt Sharon would absolutely never let me starve to death. Unexpectedly, not long after I knocked on the door, my answer was a chipped porcelain bowl hurled straight out. Aunt Sharon stood there, one hand on her hip and the other gripping a kitchen knife, looking so ferocious that I fell to the ground in sheer terror. Oh, Mother, you were right. Aunt Sharon is truly not someone easy to deal with. That bowl didn't hit me, but it nearly smashed into Auntie Flora Hua, the woman who had guided me here. Flora was terrified, her face draining of all color. As she turned to run, she screamed at the top of her lungs, "Sharon is killing people. She's gone crazy again." I just wanted to earn a few coins for showing the way and almost lost my life. If I had known, I would have demanded more money. These 2 copper coins aren't even enough to buy sedatives. Aunt Sharon didn't bother to pay her any mind. Her cold, sharp gaze fell directly upon me. "Little brat, who are you looking for?" I pursed my lips, tears instantly welling up in my eyes. I hurriedly leaked the household registration papers out of my bundle. Crying, I said, "Aunt Sharon, my mother has passed away. She said that in this world, I only have you left as a family." Throughout the journey here, my heart had never been at peace. The day I was sent off, the villagers had crowded the village gate. Even the usually quiet village chief could only sigh. My father, Shen, had been a loner with no remaining relatives. I had asked around everywhere only to find out that on my mother's side, there was only one younger sister who had married far away, 100 miles distant. A daughter from a poor family, once married, becomes consumed by her husband's household affairs and rarely has the chance to visit her old home. After so many years of separation, who knew how much of the old affection remained? But if I didn't find Aunt Sharon, where else could I turn? I remembered how the village chief had patted my head back then, carefully instructing me, "You little girl, when you get there, absolutely do not open your mouth to beg immediately. You must cry first. Cry pitiably. Most importantly, mention your mother. Wait until your aunt's heart softens, then, everything else will be easier to discuss." He had sighed again, adding, "No matter how badly your aunt's family treats you, you must endure it. As long as there is a place to shelter you while you grow up, you must bear any suffering. Do you remember?" I engraved his words in my heart and did exactly as he instructed. However, Aunt Sharon didn't get misty-eyed, nor did she shed a single tear. She glanced over the household registration papers, then squatted in front of me, using 2 fingers to pinch my sobbing mouth shut. "How did my sister die?" I stopped crying in fear and timidly replied, "At night, a thief broke in. He woke up father and mother. He had a knife." Seeing that I was about to burst into tears again, Aunt Sharon immediately glared, snatched my luggage bundle, and rummaged through it aggressively. "Only 1 tael of silver, and you expect me to raise you? It wasn't enough that Nina died young. Does she have to burden me with this loss too?" 1 tael of silver was a sum I had never seen in my entire life. My father was a useless man, drinking, gambling, involved in every vice. The household, inside and out, relied entirely on my mother, Nina, to hold it together. No one in the village had ever criticized her. I wanted to argue back, to say that my mother was the most capable woman in the world, but Aunt Sharon's appearance right now was too terrifying, her mouth ceaselessly disparaging my mother as if she were worth nothing. Seeing me still standing in the yard, she shouted, "What are you standing there for? Get in here." I hurriedly ran after her, tugging at the hem of her shirt, and held up 2 fingers. "It's not quite a full tael anymore. I spent a little on the road. Asking for directions cost 2 copper coins. My mother was naturally very..." Aunt Sharon's eyes widened in disbelief. "You truly are an idiot. Asking for directions costs money. Is your mouth just for decoration? Are your legs just for show? Don't you know how to ask house by house?" Her anger grew by the second. She dragged me directly into the kitchen and threw me half a piece of dry, hard bread and a bowl of thin gruel. "No way. You wasted those 2 coins, so you have to work for me to make up for it. Eat quickly. Once you're done, get to work." I swallowed my saliva, staring intently at the little bit of food in my hands, then took a big bite. Mother was right. As long as I followed Aunt Sharon, at the very least, there would be food. Being able to eat until full is the most important thing in the world. I ate each bite slowly, savoring it. Aunt Sharon stood by my side, not taking her eyes off me, observing me from head to toe. Suddenly, a little boy rushed in from outside. The moment he saw the nearly empty bowl in my hand, his eyes instantly turned red. Big, round tears fell pattering to the ground. You ate my portion. Did you eat all my rice? The boy was half a head shorter than me. He looked up at me with eyes full of grievance. I felt guilty. Just as I was about to open my mouth to explain, I let out a loud hiccup. That did it. He immediately burst out crying. You not only ate all my food, but you also licked the bottom of the bowl clean. You're trying to make me mad on purpose. Boo-hoo. He hadn't been crying for long when his mouth was stuffed full of dry bread. Truly a starving ghost reincarnated. All day long, you only know how to cry. Aunt Sharon scolded, then casually handed the remaining bread to a girl standing nearby. Seeing there was food, the boy stopped crying instantly. Aunt Sharon laughed in anger. Eat, eat, eat. As long as there's something to shove in your mouth, you forget everything. Sooner or later, I will be eaten out of house and home by you lot until I don't even have a patch of cloth left to cover myself. She pointed to the girl who was slightly older than me. That is your cousin Tessa. She's 1 year older than you. This brat is your cousin Vince. He's 1 year younger than you. Then she put her hands on her hips and spoke loudly. Hair, we don't distinguish between male or female, big or small. From today on, all 3 of you have to work. Whoever dares to be lazy will get their butt beaten. Whoever dares to steal food will be starved for 3 days. She slapped the cutting board with a loud bang that sounded like it would smash through the kitchen roof. Every time she slapped it, my heart jumped. However, she didn't bother to look anymore. She turned around and walked away. Tessa gently held my hand, smiling tenderly. Little Nia, don't be afraid. My mother looks fierce, but she is very good at heart. Vince nodded vigorously. That's right. Mother doesn't just scold you, she scolds everyone. In this house, I think only your mother wasn't afraid of her. No, actually, my mother was very afraid of her younger sister. My mother once said that since childhood, Aunt Sharon was famous in the village as the lioness. She was sharp-tongued and bold, climbing trees to catch worms or fighting to demand justice. There was nothing she didn't dare to do. Every time Mother was bullied, it was Aunt Sharon who rushed out to demand justice for her. Mother's eyes would shine when she told those stories, her smile radiant. Listening to her, my heart would fill with excitement, wishing I could immediately fly to meet this formidable aunt. However, whenever I mentioned going to find Aunt Sharon, Mother would gently pat my head. The road is very far, traveling is not convenient. I looked at my short little legs and nodded in agreement. I'm still too small. It's true I can't walk that far. Then wait until you grow up. We will go find Aunt Sharon together, okay? At those times, my father, Shen, would often stand nearby and sneer coldly. Your little sister's temper is incredibly stubborn. Before you got married, you two had an argument that shook the heavens and earth. Neither of you was willing to yield. After so many years, the resentment has probably only grown. If you go find her, it would be a miracle if she didn't chase you out with a broom. From then on, Mother didn't mention it again. Not because she didn't remember, but because she missed her too much. Once, Mother fell gravely ill. Father said there was no money in the house. She took some medicine carelessly for a few months. Life and death were left to fate. I sat by the bed feeding her medicine. Her body was burning hot, drifting in and out of consciousness, tears flowing ceaselessly. She didn't call for grandfather, nor did she call for grandmother. She only called for Sharon. I leaned close to hear her whisper, "Little Nia, my sister was wrong. Sister shouldn't have hidden it from you. Little Nia, don't chase sister away. Don't chase me away. It was sister's fault. I am a daughter, I cannot carry on the family line. To my father, whatever my name was made no difference. So, my name was given to me by my mother. I am called Nia Shen. Nia, for remembrance, and Shen, implying little fish. The more she missed her, the less she dared to meet her. But Aunt Sharon seemed not to miss my mother at all. My heart felt sour, and my eyes stung. Before I could be sad for long, Aunt Sharon's voice rang out from the yard, slacking off again. You've eaten your fill and still won't work quickly. It's not enough that I work hard to feed 2 gluttons, now there's another one. Go work, now. No mother speaks to her children like that, but Tessa and Vince were long used to it. Making funny faces to tease me, they pulled me along as we ran off. While gathering firewood, I couldn't help but ask quietly, "Does Aunt Sharon ever mention my mother?" "My mother's name is Nina. She missed Aunt Sharon very much." Tessa lowered her head to gather dry branches, not bothering to look up. "Never heard of her. Never heard that name either. My mother doesn't remember anyone, she only scolds people." Then she glanced at me. "If you're slow, you'll get scolded again when we get home." Tessa wasn't wrong at all. Aunt Sharon indeed turned to scold me, criticizing the bundle of firewood I gathered as being too small. But she didn't just blame me, both Tessa and Vince got an earful too. Her later words were harsher than her earlier ones. Before I could feel sad about the first sentence, I was already dizzy from the second. But while her mouth scolded, her hands never stopped working. Before long, a simple meal was laid out on the small table. It wasn't a feast of many dishes, but large bowls for many people. The soup had eggs, the vegetables had fat, and the aroma spread throughout the kitchen, making my stomach rumble loudly. I held the bowl in my hands. The smell of hot rice rushed straight into my nose, and I couldn't stop swallowing my saliva. Aunt Sharon and her 2 children sat down and immediately started eating. Only I remained motionless, my eyes unconsciously glancing toward the door. The village chief had warned me that in this house, besides Aunt Sharon, there was also an uncle. No matter how Aunt Sharon treated me, I should know my place to protect myself and avoid causing her trouble. Uncle hadn't returned yet. I didn't dare move my chopsticks. Seeing me sitting frozen like a wooden log, Vince smiled with squinted eyes, reached out and grabbed my bowl, intending to pour my rice into his own bowl. Aunt Sharon shot him a sideways glance. The boy immediately shrank his neck back, still muttering, "Isn't it because Cousin Nia isn't hungry? It's wasteful. I'm just helping to eat it." "You think people are stupid. Who doesn't know hunger?" Aunt Sharon straightened her back, her gaze deepening as she looked at me, but her voice wasn't angry. "You've come to my house, you see the situation. I'll make it clear beforehand. Following me means eating this kind of food every day. It will be like this for a lifetime. You are not allowed to complain about a single word. If you can't stand it, then go back." "How can I go back? The house, the fields, and the garden. The village chief helped me sell them all. If not for that, I couldn't have traveled this far, nor could I have kept that one tael of silver." "Aunt Sharon, I'm not going anywhere." I shook my head, speaking from my heart. Uncle hasn't come back yet. If he sees us eating first without waiting for him, he won't be happy. The moment the words left my mouth, Tessa and Vince both stopped their chopsticks, looking fearfully at Aunt Sharon. "Oh no, I said something wrong." Aunt Sharon looked at me, then at the other 2, and then rolled up her sleeves to put a piece of food into each of our bowls. "I am your aunt. That is a fact that cannot be changed. As for him, he may not necessarily be your uncle forever. What does it matter if he's happy or not? In this house, me not being happy is the big problem. If I tell you to eat, just eat. Why so much talk?" Tessa and Vince immediately nodded vigorously. Seeing them nod, I nodded along. Aunt Sharon suddenly laughed, her eyes curving, the corners of her lips lifting, no longer looking fierce like before. Actually, she looked very much like my mother. "Don't flatter me," she huffed. "Rice in the belly is what's real. Working properly makes me feel at ease. Don't think that currying favor with me will get you out of work." Hearing that, I hurriedly lifted my bowl to eat. I had only been here half a day, gathered a few bundles of firewood, yet Aunt Sharon had fed me 2 meals with it making me do extra work. I felt guilty inside. Tessa washed the dishes, Vince swept the floor and wiped the table, while I only stood watching Aunt Sharon. After wiping her mouth, she grudgingly took 2 chicken eggs and stuffed them into my hand. "Your household registration needs to be amended. Take these 2 eggs and give them to the village chief as a gift. Later, remember to pay me back 2 more eggs. Do you hear clearly?" "I remember. 2 copper coins, 2 chicken eggs. I will definitely pay back in full." Hearing my firm reply, Aunt Sharon narrowed her eyes at me, as if looking through me to see someone else, then gritted her teeth and smiled. What a lingering memory, good memory. Only when I saw with my own eyes the village chief nodding to accept the registration papers my heart truly settled, like a seed planted deep into the earth. From now on, no one could chase me away. My luggage bundle was tiny, yet Tessa and Vince were incredibly curious about it, their eyes shining brightly as they stared. I pushed the bundle toward them. "If you wanna look, just look. We are family now, there's nothing to hide." The candlelight flickered in the small room, just bright enough to illuminate 2 pairs of sparkling eyes. Aside from the registration papers and a little silver, the rest were items of no value. Yet, the 2 of them looked at them very intently. The patches embroidered with flowers on my mother's clothes, thickly lined and meticulously stitched, and 2 soft handkerchiefs embroidered with exquisite patterns. Every item made them ask questions ceaselessly. "Cousin Nia, your mother was so skillful with her hands," Tessa said, gently stroking the fabric of the handkerchief. "She could embroider such beautiful patterns. My mother only knows how to patch clothes, and it doesn't look good at all. If my clothes had a beautiful patch like this, Nick wouldn't laugh at me anymore." Tessa patted Vince on the head and frowned, correcting herself. "Covering the hole is good enough, though. Who in the village isn't like that? Nick's patches aren't any better." Saying that just makes mother sad. Then she admiringly touched my shirt again. "But Aunt Nina embroidered so skillfully. If you took this handkerchief to an embroidery shop, it would surely sell for money." My mother used to mend clothes with every needle and thread filled with her thoughts. No matter how big the tear or how difficult the spot, once it passed through her hands, it became as neat as new. It was a pity she didn't have good fabric to embroider handkerchiefs anymore. Year-round, she only patched on set of clothes after another to exchange for odd coins. She once taught me how to thread a needle, but she never told me the secret of how to embroider so exquisitely. I always thought there would be a day I could learn that secret, but unexpectedly that secret followed her to the grave. "Cousin Tessa, this handkerchief is for you." I lifted the delicate cloth and offered it to Tessa. Her eyes lit up instantly. "You're really giving it to me? Do you have another one?" "I still have one." I smiled and nodded. "Sharing one with you is fine." I turned to Vince. "Later, when your clothes tear, I will patch them for you. I learned from mother. Although not as exquisite as hers, won't be ugly." I had my own private thoughts. In this world, only Aunt Sharon knew about my mother. I just hoped she would see more things belonging to mother and learn little more about her. Unexpectedly, as soon as I finished speaking, both siblings' eyes turned red. They dragged me to see all their precious treasures. It wasn't until Aunt Sharon banged on the door and shouted, "Go to sleep, all of you," that the 3 of us finally stopped. Vince lingered, unwilling to leave. Tessa tossed and turned, having so much she wanted to say to me. She carefully hid the handkerchief under her pillow, acting like an adult as she whispered, "Little Nia, don't be afraid. In this house, my mother is the most formidable person. As long as you don't cause trouble, she will definitely protect you. As long as you are willing to work, she won't let you starve. And there's me, too. I am your cousin Tessa. Vince is small, but he can work too. We will live together, and surely the days ahead will be better. If you live well, my mother will truly be at peace." Tessa's hand was warm, and that warmth slowly spread into my heart. The grievances accumulated over the long journey finally burst forth. I wailed loudly. "Cousin Tessa, thank you all. Aunt Sharon gave me a place to sleep and food to eat. You and Vince are so good to me. Why is everyone treating me so well?" Seeing me cry, Tessa sniffled too, crying as she spoke. "Silly little Nia, your arrival doesn't mean mother will love us less. We still get to eat our fill, and mother still scolds us as usual. Having more people to work is even better. My mother said our house doesn't raise lazy people," she continued. "Everyone has to rely on their hands and feet to live, including me and Vince. Now there's you too." Tessa hiccuped. "Little Nia, if later on Vince and I went to find you, your mother would definitely have taken us in, right?" I nodded vigorously and cried even harder. "Definitely. Mother missed Aunt Sharon very much. You two are Aunt Sharon's children. Mother would definitely have kept you." Crying until I was exhausted, I fell asleep without realizing it. In the middle of the night, in my daze, it seemed like a few drops of water fell on my cheek, but the roof was intact. How could it be leaking rain? I turned over, sinking deep into sleep, only hearing a very faint sobbing sound by my ear. The next morning, Tessa's and my eyes were swollen like 2 ripe peaches. While eating, we both kept our heads down, not daring to look up at Aunt Sharon. She didn't pay attention, dropped a few words, and went to the fields. Vince curiously asked, "Why are your eyes so swollen? Did you secretly cry last night?" "No, Tessa and I are both older than him. How could we let the little boy find out?" Before I could think of an excuse, Vince shook his head. "No, that's not right. Even if you two cried, mother would have cried along with you. It must be that the wind and sand last night only blew into women's eyes. In this world, everyone has their own way of living. My mother taught me to grow vegetables, farm, and wash clothes. But Aunt Sharon was completely different." She pointed at several earthenware jars. "See that? In there is the soy sauce I made. It's thanks to these things that I feed the whole family. There were 5 or 6 jars, not large, the mouths only reaching my waist, but the lids and the ground around them were spotless, without a speck of dust. Tessa said Aunt Sharon's sauce was just like her personality, unique, spicy enough to bring tears, salty as if a whole bag of salt had been poured in, and the preserved fruit was sour enough to numb your teeth. You only needed to put a little bit into a dish for it to become incredibly flavorful. Because it was so strong, buying 1 jar lasted a very long time. The people in town often colluded to squeeze the price. Selling retail was hard to finish, and only restaurants would buy whole jars. Does Aunt Sharon agree to sell? I asked. Tessa shook her head, sitting down beside me. At first, Mother refused. The ingredients were the best kind she selected herself. The dry firewood was gathered branch by us siblings. So as not to affect the farm work, she stayed up late at night to cook the sauce, her arms aching, just to make it. They offered a dirt cheap price, clearly looking down on our labor. Mother said she'd rather let the sauce rot in the jars or give it away as gifts than sell it cheap. But that year, my father took all the furniture and ran away, leaving us without a single copper coin. The village took pity and gave some food, but everyone was poor. We didn't want to live relying on others. In the end, Mother had to carry each jar of sauce herself to sell, exchanging all her blood and sweat for silver to raise us. From then on, the house was almost empty. The meager silver had to buy food, clothes, seeds, and heating wood for winter. Calculating back and forth, there was hardly anything left. Aunt Sharon refused to submit. During the day, she sued. At night, she ran back and forth. She sought the village chief to present her case, went to her husband's family to demand justice, and finally gritted her teeth to raise the 2 children through the winter. Only when spring came did life become a little easier to breathe. This was the first time I heard about Aunt Sharon's hardships after getting married. It was also the first time I heard about my uncle. Listening to it, my tears fell ceaselessly. Why were the fates of my mother and Aunt Sharon so miserable? Seeing me cry, Vince patted his belly, comforting me endlessly. Cousin Nia, don't cry. My mother is very formidable. Although she carries sauce to sell, every jar sells for 10 copper coins more than others pay. Later, Mother made several other types of sauce. The later jars were even more expensive than the first ones. When my father hadn't run away yet, that old man often stole things from the house to give to outsiders. Now that he's run away, it's actually better. We get to eat chicken eggs, fat, and meat. It's much more delicious than before. This was indeed true. Other families in the village only ate 2 meals, but Aunt Sharon saved bread and gruel for Tessa and Vince, and she was generous when cooking rice. Compared to when I was with my mother, the food really was much better. Hemph. Now you know you came to the right place, don't you? Tessa counted on her fingers, her eyes full of expectation. Wait until the sauce is done. Mother will cook a spicy vegetable broth for us. Slurping a bowl in winter makes the whole body warm. When there are many small fish, Mother will dry them and fry them until crispy, then cook them. You will definitely like it. Mentioning food, Vince's saliva was about to drip. He pulled Tessa and me along as we ran. Don't talk anymore. The more you talk, the hungrier I get. Let's go up the mountain to cut grass for the chickens and pick wild fruits and vegetables. Anything that gets into Mother's hands turns into a delicious dish. Turning back, I happened to see Aunt Sharon carrying a hoe, standing in the field, smiling as she watched our backs. Even though I stayed at Aunt Sharon's house and had registered my household, gossip was unavoidable. Adults didn't say it straight to my face, but children had no such reservations, especially Nick, the boy Vince often mentioned, the youngest son of Auntie Flora, who had guided me that day. As soon as he saw me, he ran after me, his eyes glued to me. Are you that little god of wealth, with no parents that my mother talked about? Where do you want to go later? I'll guide you. Can you give me 2 copper coins? This wasn't treating me as a god of wealth, clearly, he took me for a fool with money. I have no money, and I don't need you to guide me. Nick immediately darkened his face. You don't believe me. Is there any place in this village I don't know? What's wrong with giving me a little money? Or did you give all the silver to your fierce Aunt Sharon? I put my hands on my hips and frowned. How big can the village be? I'll get there myself eventually. If I don't know, I'll ask someone else. Why do I need to give you money? My Aunt Sharon isn't fierce at all. Aunt Sharon is the best person. I won't allow you to speak ill of her. Nick gloated, his eyes rolling with malice. Who doesn't know your aunt is the fiercest in the village? She even fights with her own man. Do you know what people call her? People in the village call her Sorrowful Sharon, because she fights 6 or 7 times a day. Your uncle couldn't stand it, so he ran away with another woman. I stood frozen. No wonder that day Auntie Flora called Aunt Sharon, damned Sorrowful Sharon. So that was why. My mother loved me, but when father took Silver to gamble and drink, she only dared to stop him, she never dared to raise a hand. Even if father got drunk and beat people, mother could only hug me to protect me. In my eyes, mother was already the most capable woman, but I didn't expect Aunt Sharon to be even more formidable than mother. I turned my head, just in time to catch the proud looks of Tessa and Vince. So what if my mother is fierce? I only like my mother being fierce. My mother is raising us by herself, isn't that very amazing? That's right, it was my father who wasn't good, why can't she hit him? Yesterday I saw your mother spanking your butt, are you saying your mother isn't good either? The surrounding children all stared at Nick. Being beaten by parents wasn't strange, but having it said out loud in front of everyone was a different matter. Nick blushed with anger and shame, and finally, his embarrassment turned into rage. He shoved Tessa down. I didn't get spanked. You're lying. What's so amazing about your mother? Your father ran away with someone else. He doesn't need you anymore. You two are bastards with no father. You are a freeloader. Your whole family are broom stars. Bad luck. A figure dashed past me. Vince bit hard onto Nick's arm. He bit down tight and wouldn't let go, glaring fiercely. Nick cried out in pain, tears and snot running down his face. Let go. Let go now. If you don't let go, I'll beat you to death. Seeing Vince still refusing to release his mouth, Nick picked up a rock, intending to smash it onto Vince's head. Tessa and I rushed forward without a second thought. Don't hit my brother. Don't hit my cousin. Tessa was a step slow and only managed to grab Nick's leg, while I ignored everything, grabbed his other arm, and bit down hard. The scene instantly turned into chaos. Some children were so scared they burst into tears and ran to call the adults. The earliest arrival was Auntie Flora. It took a very long time for people to separate the two sides. The three of us were messy from head to toe, unbearable to look at. But Nick was even more miserable. Both his arms were bleeding from bites, and his whole body was covered in dirt. Anyone looking would think we ganged up to bully him. Auntie Flora naturally thought so too. She strode over and grabbed my arm tightly. Very good, you 3 little brats dare to bully my son. Let's go. I must go find Sharon to demand an explanation. This isn't over. Oh no, I caused trouble for Aunt Sharon. My arm was squeezed painfully. I let out a wah and burst into tears, recounting everything as I cried. I didn't believe that all adults refused to distinguish right from wrong. I absolutely could not let Aunt Sharon be misunderstood any further. Nick also cried, pulling at Auntie Flora's shirt. Mother, Vince bit me. Those two bullied me too. You have to demand justice for me. Then he sniffled and continued, Mother, tell their family to pay money. I want 2 copper coins. No, 20 copper coins. I want to buy food. Auntie Flora's face stiffened. She forced a smile and looked down. 20 coins, is that enough? I'm afraid that's not enough to buy food, right? That's right. Maybe we should demand 200. Before she finished her sentence, Nick shrieked, Osh! Mother, why are you hitting me? You hit the wrong person. Hit them. Boo-hoo, it hurts. Auntie Flora quickly pinched his ear, twisting it back and forth. Then she kicked once. Her shoe flew off and landed straight on Nick's butt. Did I ever let you starve or lack clothes? You shameless thing. Daring to cling to people demanding money. Are you a beggar? I'll beat that greedy, foul-mouthed habit out of you. I'll beat that habit of talking nonsense out of you. I'll beat you, you stupid thing. Smack. Smack. The shoe sole hit with a harsh sound. Nick's butt was covered in shoe prints, looking even more miserable than when we bit him. Who taught you to say those words? Speak now. Nick managed to struggle free, ran a few steps but was kicked down by Auntie Flora. She pinned him to the ground and continued hitting. Still dare to run. I truly beat you too little, that's why you dare to talk nonsense. If you don't say it, get out of the house and don't come back. Finally, Nick couldn't take it anymore. Crying and trembling, he said, No, it wasn't me talking nonsense, it was Vince's grandma who said it. I just overheard it. Boo-hoo, mother, stop hitting me. I know I was wrong. Auntie Flora huffed coldly and hauled him up. Are you stupid? Even their own flesh and blood they despise, not even caring about kinship. Are they any good to teach you like that? And you believed them? Serves you right. The crowd of onlookers suddenly parted to make a path. Aunt Sharon had arrived. Even though Flora had beaten her own son, she was still a bit awkward. She hurriedly pulled Nick behind her back. Sharon Zhang. Children are small. Aunt Sharon just nodded, then walked over and patted the heads of the three of us. Good job. Our family must be united like that. Auntie Flora's face instantly turned black. You kids go home first. Mother has work to do. After saying that, Aunt Sharon didn't look back once, striding toward the end of the village. Not long after, miserable wailing sounds rang out from the end of the village. You, the kind who couldn't keep a man's legs, and you dare come to my house. My bowl, my pot, you crazy woman. Put the knife down now. I am your mother-in-law. Sharon, my son won't forgive you when he comes back. Oh heavens, what sin did our family commit to bring in this fire? Breathing dragon. I didn't say it. I really didn't say it. Let go of my grandson. I was wrong. I won't dare say it again. The crowd watching was too thick. I stood on tiptoe but couldn't see clearly what was happening over there. Tessa, her hair messy and her outer shirt torn with a hole, smiled at me and pulled me home. Mother went to demand justice for us. Don't worry, let's go home and wait for her. I took a needle and thread to mend the clothes for Tessa and Vince. Late in the afternoon, Aunt Sharon returned. There were a few scratches on her face, but her hand carried a small piece of meat. This is what I demanded for you kids. Tonight, we will eat meat. Then she shook the few chicken eggs in her other hand. And these are what Auntie Flora compensated. Today, you kids did a meritorious deed. Just eat to your heart's content. After this battle, I was considered famous in the village. The children saw me and stayed far away, whispering that I would turn out just like Aunt Sharon in the future. My heart felt hot, having my mother's skills and learning a few parts of Aunt Sharon's formidability. In this life, I was already satisfied. Vince looked incredibly majestic. After leaving a big scar on Nick's arm, Nick didn't dare to provoke him anymore. However, Vince insisted on wearing the patched clothes I had mended, strutting back and forth in front of everyone to show them off. Nick, look at this. Look at the stitches. Look at the pattern. Look at the patch. Can your mother sew like this? It's much more beautiful than that centipede-looking patch of yours. Then he huffed, adding a threat for good measure. Oh right, my mother also said if you run around provoking dogs and teasing cats again, she will strip off your pants and make you run a lap around the village. Heemph. Talking to someone without a cousin like you wouldn't understand. Nick retorted weakly, retreating. Because Vince kept parading back and forth every day showing off his patched clothes. Not long after, Auntie Flora brought her family's clothes to our door. Look at this shirt. Compared to previous times it's much simpler, she muttered, trying to save face. Auntie Flora, I can fix it, but I have to charge money for it, I said politely but firmly. Those 2 copper coins. I still remembered them very clearly. I thought she would haggle, but unexpectedly, she nodded and agreed immediately. It's just that my skills are still immature. I can't earn as much as my mother did back then. I added humbly, actually, I understood perfectly. Auntie Flora didn't bring clothes just to have them mended, she intentionally brought money over. Nick had inadvertently rubbed salt into the wound in a strong woman's heart. There were apologies she couldn't say out loud, so she could only compensate in this way. I lifted the few copper coins in front of Aunt Sharon. Aunt Sharon, take it all. Aunt Sharon put the money aside and held my hand, examining it carefully. A long time later, she whispered, your hands are still not as beautiful as your mother's hands were when she was young. My mother, Nina, was naturally a person with rare talent. Before she could even hold chopsticks steadily, she had started practicing holding a needle to mend clothes for the family. At first, the stitches were crooked and clumsy, but she was patient and meticulous. Soon enough, she was sewing perfectly. Later, following people to town, her skills caught the eye of a famous seamstress. That person felt pity and taught her a few embroidery styles, considering her a semi-apprentice. With just that, Mother quickly grasped the essence, embroidering vivid patterns. The shopkeeper of the embroidery shop once said that if Mother could keep her hands white and soft, without calices, she could embroider on fine silk later and earn big money. But that was not easy. In a poor family, both men and women had to do heavy labor. My sister had a soft nature. Aunt Sharon whispered, lost in memory. Every time I caused trouble, it was she who stood up to settle it. Seeing Mother and me working ceaselessly, how could she bear to sit idly? Such a good opportunity, yet she couldn't bear to keep it for herself. I knew I had to give her a push. At that time, I told her, let me do all the work in the house. You just need to keep your hands beautiful and white. Later on, we will have someone to rely on. Aunt Sharon sighed heavily. At first, everything went smoothly. But there are always people in this world who don't want others to live in peace. My father insisted on having a son, but did he have that fortune? He couldn't sire one himself, yet he caused my mother, who was pregnant, to die of anger. I hate him to the bone. I never want to acknowledge that father in this life. She gritted her teeth. Yet not long after mother passed away, he brought another woman home, using the very silver that we three, mother and daughters, had worked so hard to earn. That woman arrogantly said she had good luck, giving birth to a son in one go. What good luck? Marrying an irresponsible man with no ambition, yet daring to dream wildly. I couldn't stand it. I kept opposing that woman constantly. She whispered poison into father's ears, finding ways to cut off my sister's path. Listening to this, my heart tightened. I remembered my mother's cracked, calloused hands and the times she held up 2 handkerchiefs, sighing silently alone. I know, the ending back then surely wasn't peaceful, I said softly. Aunt shamped lightly on my forehead. I haven't finished telling the story, so why are you sad? With me there, how could I let my sister be arranged by others? Naturally, Aunt Sharon refused to sit still. She had always been someone who feared neither heaven nor earth. With her mother gone early, only one biological sister remained in the world to cling to. Taking advantage of father's absence, Aunt Sharon took a stick and blocked that woman in her room, even choking the child as she coldly threatened. You are afraid of what? This is the first time I call you mother. In your heart, you understand why I'm not afraid to die. At worst, we die together. I just don't know if you dare or not. You want to steal a man, then steal him. You want to raise a son, then raise him. But if you dare touch my sister, I will deal with both you and your child. Next time you let me call you mother, again, just wash your neck and wait. After threatening her, Aunt Sharon slapped herself hard twice, then ran out crying. She didn't care about washing dirty linen in public, nor did she care about reputation. She only needed to make everyone see the stepmother's cruel face clearly. Later, no matter what she did, the world would understand why. At that time, sister was almost becoming a real seamstress. Aunt Sharon said softly. I thought we didn't need to rely on that ungrateful old father anymore. Sister and I could live fine on our own. But I was still too young back then. A stepmother interfering in a stepdaughter's marriage might be gossiped about by the world, but if a biological father stepped in to marry off his daughter, even if it was into a fire pit, no one would dare say anything. Initially, mother going to learn embroidery was agreed upon by the whole family. However, later, mother's teacher was taken as a concubine by the embroidery shop owner, and thanks to that, her family enjoyed quite a few benefits. Grandfather only saw white silver pouring in, but he didn't see that the seamstress, after becoming a concubine, was not favored. With no children to rely on, she eventually turned into cheap labor, ordered around for life. He went straight to the embroidery shop, wanting the shopkeeper to take my mother as a concubine too. Mother refused and Aunt Sharon refused too, so a big business deal was ruined. I thought sister understood me, and I understood her. Yet a few days later she suddenly told me she had been arranged a good marriage. She wanted to marry, settle down as a virtuous wife, and help her husband raise children. Aunt Sharon laughed bitterly. That person, I had never met. His parents were dead, he had no family background. How could that be called a good marriage? Mother and I had an argument that shook the heavens and earth. Aunt Sharon lowered her eyes, her eyelashes casting shadowy blurs on her face. She said that eventually, she had to get married. She was tired, she only wanted to live peaceful days without any burden. That burden. There was no need to say who it was. Aunt Sharon's nature was stubborn, and she was young then. How could she bow her head and endure? By the time both sisters were married off one after another, everything was no longer up to them to decide. Anyway, she is gone now. Saying more is useless. If I had known she would live so miserably, I should have bowed my head from the start. Sister and I are flesh and blood. In this world, nothing is more important than each other. Seeing Aunt Sharon bow her head like that, she looked strangely like my mother. Anyone looking would know they were sisters from the same family. My heart ached sharply. Finally, unable to hold it in anymore, I spoke the secret that my mother had kept hidden. Aunt Sharon. Mother's hands were injured. They were injured before the wedding. Aunt Sharon suddenly jerked her head up, her pupils trembling violently as if something was aggressively tearing apart her layer of resilience. What did you say? Say it again. I looked straight into Aunt Sharon's eyes, articulating clearly. Mother's hands were injured before she got married. Since I was old enough to remember, Mother only mended old clothes. No more embroidery, No more patterns. Whenever she held a needle for a little too long, her hands would shake uncontrollably, pale with pain. Once, when father was drunk, I heard him cursing. He said grandfather had tricked him, saying he wasn't marrying a money-making seamstress but a woman with ruined hands. He also said, since mother conspired to deceive him, she had to work like a buffalo and horse to pay it back 1,000 times over. My voice choked. Mother had ruined the concubine arrangement back then, and with her hands ruined, she had no support behind her and no way to retreat ahead. Grandfather held the household registrations and the marriages of both sisters in his hands. If Aunt Sharon knew everything, she would definitely risk her life. Mother understood that. Perhaps in her eyes, she herself was the burden. So, she used her own self to trade for a deal with grandfather. Aunt Sharon. Whether you can marry the person you want to marry or not. Even if life isn't as you wished, even if there are regrets. My mother only hoped you could live happily. Aunt Sharon hugged me tight, nodding, then burst into loud wailing. That crying sound was exactly like that night, only this time it was no longer suppressed. It was crying until her intestines tore apart. Knowing the old story between Aunt Sharon and mother, my heart felt lighter, but a new worry appeared. The wounds on Aunt Sharon's face were too visible. If she didn't see a doctor, I was afraid they would leave scars. But the silver was with mother. Where would we get money to buy medicine? Tessa and I both frowned. Copper coins could be earned slowly, but wounds wouldn't wait for people. Aunt Sharon insisted on not spending money, saying they were just small scratches. But mother once said that in her youth, Aunt Sharon loved beauty very much. Aunt Sharon had treated me so well. If mother saw her sister with scars on her face from the underworld, she would be heartbroken. Vince suddenly rolled his eyes and patted his chest. It's just silver. Leave it to me. You. Tessa looked him up and down, not believing him one bit. Vince huffed, not bothering to reply, and his short legs ran out the door. I thought he was just playing, but unexpectedly, by late afternoon, he really brought back a box of ointment. The small box was exquisite, filled to the brim inside. One look and you knew it had never been used. Such ointment surely wasn't cheap. Before I could ask, Tessa jumped up. Did you go find that uncle? Didn't mother say not to go find him? Vince. Mother will be angry. Who is that uncle? No one answered me. Vince was stubbornly rare this time, refusing to admit fault. If I don't find Uncle Vance, what about mother's face? I'm not wrong. Mother can beat me if she wants. After she beats me, I'll still acknowledge him, and I'll still care for him later. Tessa sighed, her voice softening. Do you think I don't worry about mother? But if mother asks where this medicine came from, what do you say? You can't even fool me, let alone mother. If she refuses to use it, what then? And making someone spend silver, making mother owe a favor. Vince was speechless, lowering his head and stammering, Just then, a steady voice rang out from outside the door. Don't blame the boy. A tall man walked in. His physique was sturdy, his muscular biceps revealed under a short shirt. The outside was still stained with the smell of grease. Clearly a butcher. As soon as he entered, he stuffed a handful of candy into each of our hands. Once done, he awkwardly retreated, standing stiffly under the tree, not knowing where to put his hands and feet. That was Uncle Vance Wan. Tessa whispered as she gathered the candy into her lap. He works as a butcher in town. Uncle Vance likes my mother. He knows she was married and has children, but his heart hasn't changed. After my father ran away, he came to declare his intentions, but mother refused. She said she still had her status and couldn't do something against morality. Vince also nodded seriously. My mother doesn't take advantage of anyone, nor does she let anyone suffer a loss. I asked for the medicine for her, but we can't eat the candy. Cousin Nia, don't be sad. I'll buy some for you later. The two siblings didn't keep a single piece, gathering all the candy and running outside. Uncle Vance, we don't like eating it. You take it back to your family. Tessa was stubborn, and Uncle Vance refused to yield either. He pointed to the big bag beside him, pleadingly explaining. It's not just for you kids. The children in the village all have a portion. You just take it. The three stood at a standstill, no one was willing to step back. Just then, I saw Aunt Sharon's silhouette in the distance, so I called out loudly. Uncle Vance jumped, and the bag of candy fell to the ground with a thud. I'm just distributing it to the village kids, not specifically for your children. He hurriedly explained before even being asked. Truly, confessing without being beaten. I held back laughter in my belly. Waiting for Aunt Sharon and Uncle Vance to leave, I pulled Tessa and Vince to ask more. Uncle Vance is as stubborn as a rock, Tessa recounted. The price of meat at his place has been fixed forever. Missing one coin, he won't sell, but the meat is always the freshest, weighed fully without cheating. If anyone lacks money or asks for an extra bone, he never refuses. The fact that he likes Mother, only our family knows. Vince giggled. Everyone outside thinks Uncle Vance just loves children. He's very secretive. In front of others he doesn't glance at anyone. Giving candy, cakes, fruits. If Mother didn't refuse, he might have bought clothes for all the children in the village. His family found out and forced him to go on blind dates, even locking him in the house. Uncle Vance didn't bother meeting anyone and even went on a hunger strike. Vince sighed. If Uncle Vance were my real father, it would be so good. Mother wouldn't have to work so hard. I nodded. Indeed a rare good man, but I only cared about one thing. Does Aunt Sharon like him? Vince shook his head sadly. If she liked him, they would have been together long ago. Tessa, however, nodded slightly. I think she likes him. If she didn't like him, with my mother's temper, she would have grabbed a knife and chased him away long ago. The two of them had different opinions, both sounded reasonable. It was just that they hadn't thought of Aunt Sharon's circumstances. If she were young, Aunt Sharon would naturally dare to love and dare to hate. But now she was a mother of two, still carrying the name of a husband she hadn't divorced. Gossip in the village could kill a person. She was afraid her children would be hurt, and also afraid that Uncle Vance's feelings were only temporary, eventually becoming a burden. I held my face and sighed. Now there was me, another mouth to feed. Aunt Sharon would find it even harder to choose. Such a good opportunity, should she really let it go? If Mother were still here. Thinking of that, I stood up abruptly, pulling Tessa and Vince to quietly chase in the direction the two were talking. My Aunt Sharon and my mother were biological sisters. One was gentle like a spring stream, the other burned like a summer fire. On the surface, they seemed completely opposite, but deep in their bones, they were not much different. My mother was so gentle that everyone thought she was weak. Yet, who could have guessed that on that very night, it was this gentle woman who dared to drag me away to escape. There were no bandits attacking the village, it was simply that Mother's plan to take me away was discovered by Father. Very good. You slut, you truly aren't content with your lot. Was my beating not enough, so now you dare to take the child and run? My father roared, his face twisted in rage. Nina, I tell you, in this life, don't even dream of escaping my hands. If you dare try again, I'll kill your brat too. Those very words ignited the fire in Mother's heart. She pulled out a knife hidden in her sleeve and, without hesitation, stabbed it straight into that man. One stab, then another. She fought with her life against the man who had tormented her for so many years. I rushed over, intending to help Mother, but was flung aside, my head hitting the doorframe hard. In my dizziness, I saw Mother looking just like Aunt Sharon, erupting with a sharp, imposing aura I had never seen before. When I finally woke up, Father was lying motionless on the ground, and Mother could no longer survive. Fresh blood stained her body, blooming like red flowers, but her eyes still burned brilliantly. She gripped my hand tight. Little Nia, listen clearly. Your father and I were killed by bandits. No matter who asks, you must say that. Do you remember? Her voice grew weaker with every breath. Mother cannot watch you grow up anymore. Nor can I make it to see your Aunt Sharon. You must definitely go find her. She is the most formidable one. She will help you. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at me one last time. Little sister. Sister misses you so much. Then, she stopped breathing in my arms. Before I could even wipe my tears, I heard voices outside. I lifted the candlestick and smashed it hard against my own head. I was just a child who had lost both parents. Speaking incoherently was normal. I was just a child facing a great calamity. Not remembering things clearly was also normal. Father often beat Mother and me. I insisted on finding Mother's relatives. Everything was logical. The village chief helped me handle the funeral affairs. I understood. Perhaps they had guessed part of the truth. But no one had the heart to make things difficult for a little child over a scumbag. I specifically asked them to cremate the two separately. I carried Mother's ashes with me. Before leaving the village, I buried them at the village entrance, a place only I knew. As for Father's ashes, I scattered them into a filthy ditch where dead fish floated. I understood the words Mother left unsaid. Even if the village chief hadn't told me, I would have gone myself to see how Aunt Sharon was living. Mother had a part of Aunt Sharon in her, didn't she? And didn't Aunt Sharon also carry my mother's shadow? She used to suffer, now she was better, but not happy enough. I needed to know Aunt Sharon's true feelings clearly. Just as she had pushed Mother a step forward years ago, I would push her a step forward now. Being an eavesdropper was truly a first for us. As we got closer, Tessa and Vince became more afraid. I told them to wait at a distance while I crouched low and approached alone. Finally, I heard familiar voices. I understand your heart, but I cannot respond. I don't want to hold you back. It was Aunt Sharon. Then came Uncle Vance's voice, stiff yet trembling. Hold back what? I have no great future. I only want to be with you. Sharon, I have convinced my family. I even drank medicine that makes me unable to have children. Your niece. I can raise them all. My parents don't mind. Having children around makes them happy. If you are afraid of gossip, we can move somewhere else. Sharon, pity me a little. Don't let me be lonely for a lifetime. I stood frozen. Heavens. Uncle Vance truly's a stubborn rock. You're crazy. That was the first time I heard Aunt Sharon so panicked. I still cannot be with you. Vance, I carry a human life on me. She didn't finish, but I understood. The husband who ran away. The string of fate bound the two sisters tight, even thousands of miles apart. They ended up choosing the same path. But what about Uncle Vance? Can he accept that? I wondered silently. I know. You don't know. Actually, I do know. Uncle Vance's voice gradually calmed down, carrying both determination and reverence. I originally just wanted to find you. Standing afar to look at you was enough. But I saw with my own eyes you two arguing. I saw him hit you, then take all the furniture and run away. Sharon, you are so competitive, yet you didn't chase him. So, I chased him for you. He paused, his voice dropping lower. Not far away, he slipped and fell down a slope, his lips turned purple. He died on the spot. Uncle Vance stepped forward, gently embracing Aunt Sharon. Damn him. Having you but not knowing how to cherish you, betraying you, humiliating you, you hating him is right. I helped you handle it cleanly. Sharon, this matter will never be revealed. That woman he loved the most. I only gave her some silver, told her to write a letter sending him home, then leave far away. Sharon, you don't carry any life in your hands. You are clean. You are just a pitiable woman. Sharon, please let me take care of you. This is the last time I beg. If you still don't agree, I will take my whole family and leave this place, never to turn back, so you can be at peace. Just as he finished speaking, Aunt Sharon stood on her tiptoes and gently kissed Uncle Vance on the lips. The two entangled tightly, breaths mingling, the kiss deep and long. When they separated, their eyes lingered, reluctant to part. I understood. Aunt Sharon had accepted. When I quietly returned, Vince couldn't help but ask urgently, what happened? What did they say? Tessa straightened my clothes while glancing at me with curiosity. I pretended to be dazed and shook my head. I didn't dare get too close. I didn't hear clearly what they said. Sigh. Vince let out a long breath. Then let's leave it to fate, I nodded, following the two back into the house. Indeed, we must follow fate. If I hadn't appeared, if the knot in Aunt Sharon's heart hadn't been untied, I don't know if she would have opened her heart. But I believe that heaven sending me here surely had its purpose. In the end, Aunt Sharon agreed to use that box of ointment. Not only that, she boldly led us to her old husband's house, decisively cutting off ties. Pa, my son hasn't returned, and you're already rushing to find another man. Do you still know shame? The mother-in-law shrieked. That's right, forcing your husband to leave home, not keeping the way of a wife, only worrying about absurd things. The father-in-law added. Aunt Sharon didn't lose her temper. She pulled out 2 knives and crossed them in front of her chest, the metal glinting in the sun. You don't agree, right? Go with me to the magistrate's office to see what the ending is for a man who abandons his wife and children. 2. I take you both with me. We wait for your little son to return, then regret it together. Want to bully me? You have to see if you are qualified. The 2 old people were instantly silenced, but the eldest son wouldn't accept it. He had suffered enough losses because of his younger brother. How could he let this affect his own life? Father, mother, just agree. The eldest son urged. Little brother might have started a family elsewhere, having children already. Why would he care about you two? If you refuse to let go, then go find little brother yourselves and rely on him. Finally, the old couple had to compromise. They only wanted to take back the old house. Aunt Sharon nodded immediately. She found that place gloomy anyway and didn't want to keep it. Not long after her widowhood officially ended, Uncle Vance's parents arrived at the village. Hearing that their son was willing to get married, the 2 old folks were as happy as if they had won the lottery. Even though the bride had been married before, a woman who could raise 2 children alone showed enough capability. Moreover, she was willing to care for her sister's child. How affectionate and righteous, having stepchildren. So what? Just change their surname and it's done. Suddenly having grandchildren to hold, what could be better? Anyone with a big mouth asking further questions got scolded into silence. What does it have to do with your family? 1 month later, the matchmaker officially came to propose. The procedures went strangely smoothly. Not long after leaving the old house, Aunt Sharon got married, taking us to town to live with Uncle Vance. On the day Uncle Vance came to pick up the bride, the parents of the old husband stood in the middle of the village, cursing Aunt Sharon as promiscuous, saying she had secretly committed adultery long ago. Unexpectedly, Auntie Flora accidentally bumped into them, making the two fall over. Oh my, so sorry, why did I bump right into that mouth? I didn't do it on purpose. Don't be angry. I didn't say that because of Sharon, you know, I hate her the most. How about this? Wait for your little son to return, and I will definitely stand on his side. Huh. Why are your faces so pale? Could it be that the little son isn't coming back? Oh dear, so sorry. Tessa and Vince changed their surname to Juan. As for me, I also changed my surname, but not to Juan. I took the surname Zhang, the surname of my mother and Aunt Sharon. Uncle Vance didn't mind at all. In his eyes, Aunt Sharon's surname was the best. Uncle Vance's parents didn't mind either. Seeing my skillful embroidery, they hired a good teacher to tutor me. I made clothes for the whole family. Tessa and Vince also improved day by day. The two old folks loved wearing the clothes I made, taking the two kids to show off everywhere. Look at this. Isn't it like suddenly having both a grandson and a granddaughter? I'm so happy and shy at the same time. My daughter-in-law, capable beyond words. My son makes real money and has strength, but he doesn't know how to speak generously like my daughter-in-law. You don't know. The sauce she makes is delicious. The dried meat sells out. People fight to buy it. You haven't eaten it. I'm sick of eating it already. My grandchildren. Beautiful beyond measure. I worry so much. You wouldn't understand. My grandson likes doing business. He even says later he will earn lots of money to respect us. We have half our bodies in the ground already. Hearing that, we have to try to live a few more years. Hey, where are you going? Weren't we talking happily? Why are you suddenly unhappy? I quietly dug up Mother's ashes from the old place. Aunt Sharon and Uncle Vance led me back to choose a clean piece of land to build a brand new tomb. Buried in the tomb were my grandmother and my mother. I looked at Aunt Sharon's and Uncle Vance's hands tightly interlaced, and suddenly, my heart felt light, as if a burden had been lifted. We all carried secrets we couldn't speak of, but those things did not stop us from becoming a flesh and blood family. Tessa and Vince each held one of my hands. The warmth from their palms spread slowly, seeping deep into my heart. I said softly, "Yes, let's go home." The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.